Well, welcome to today's deep dive, especially to you, the learner, whether you are, navigating the complexities of acquiring new skills, catching up on the mechanics of education, or just bringing an insanely curious mind to the table.
We are so glad you're here.
Today, we're looking at a script that basically engineers a cure for that exact vulnerability we just described. We are unpacking this really fascinating piece of source material from an English language learning show called the Minds in Motions podcast.
Yeah, hosted by Mark and Claire.
Right. And they've put together what looks on the surface like a very quaint, simple lesson. I mean, it's just a short, relatable story about a character named Sarah on her first day at an office job as an assistant.
But the premise might sound basic, but reading through this script reveals like a literal masterclass in human learning.
It really does.
Today, we're going to explore how narrative structure, strategic repetition, and a highly curated vocabulary can be used to dramatically accelerate how we absorb new information.
So think about it like this. When you look at the blueprint of a perfectly designed roller coaster, nothing is there by accident, right?
Right. Every piece matters.
Exactly. Every single twist, every, agonizingly slow climb, every sudden drop, it is all meticulously engineered. It's designed to keep the writer completely engaged, giving them just enough thrill to feel a sense of momentum without making them feel totally overwhelmed or sick.
That's a great way to put it.
And reading this Minds in Motion script feels identical to analyzing that blueprint. Like every pause, every word choice, and every character interaction is mathematically plotted for the learner.
Which brings us to the specific scenario Mark and Claire chose for this micro-narrative. What's fascinating here is that to counter the intense vulnerability of language learning we just talked about, they ground the lesson in a universally anxious experience.
One that transcends language barriers entirely.
Exactly. The first day on the job.
Oh man, everyone feels a bit exposed when they start a new job. Which is exactly how Clara sets up the episode with Mark. She asks him if he remembers his first day, which establishes that shared human baseline right away.
It's a great hook.
Right. So let's get into the mechanics of this roller coaster. The story starts with Sarah, our office assistant. She's arriving at work at 9 o'clock. But Mark includes this highly specific detail. She's wearing her favorite blue dress.
Mm-hmm.
Then she arrives, and her manager, Mr. Green, meets her at the door with a big smile and says, "Welcome to the team, Sarah."
A very warm entrance.
Very. And then he walks her into this large room with many desks and introduces her to everyone. She waves, says hi, and a man named Tom stands up, introduces himself, and says he sits at the desk next to hers.
So immediately we get this vibrant picture of her environment and, more importantly, her mental state.
But I want to play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Okay, go for it.
Because we are given these highly specific, almost, quaint details, like the fact that she is wearing her favorite blue dress.
Right.
If the goal here is strictly to teach corporate English to someone entering the workforce, doesn't a detail about a dress seem like a waste of valuable instructional time?
I think so, yeah.
Why not teach the learner how to ask for the Wi-Fi password or how to ask a manager where the printer is?
Well, that assumes the primary barrier to language acquisition is just a lack of data. You just need more vocabulary thrown at you.
Which isn't the case.
No, the actual bottleneck is cognitive load. When a learner is swimming in a sea of unknown phones, foreign syntax, and unfamiliar grammar rules, their working memory is completely maxed out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're processing so much new auditory data that their brain is constantly on the verge of panicking. So details like the blue dress are vital cognitive anchors.
Wait, are you saying that a relatable detail physically changes how the brain processes the lesson?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It significantly reduces cognitive friction. Think about what the favorite blue dress actually represents.
Okay.
It isn't about teaching office clothing vocabulary. It's about establishing Sarah's emotional state. She is nervous and she wants to feel confident. So she wears her favorite outfit to give herself a psychological boost.
Ah, I see.
And this maps directly onto your own experience as a learner listening to the show. You want to feel prepared. You want to feel confident tackling this new language.
So it's like a mirror.
Precisely. By linking the foreign words to a deeply familiar human feeling, it gives the brain a comfortable, recognizable place to stand while it looks at the unfamiliar vocabulary.
That reframes the entire opening for me. It's not just a dress, it is a psychological anchor point for the listener.
Exactly.
So, by getting the learner emotionally invested in Sarah's desire to succeed, the retention of the language around her naturally increases because the brain, like, flags the information as socially relevant.
Right. And moving forward in the narrative, the script deepens this focus on social relevance. After that initial greeting with Mr. Green and meeting Tom, the story transitions into the physical and social geography of the office.
Yeah, Tom basically takes over as Sarah's guide.
He shows her where to put her bag, and then he takes her to the break room.
And the script takes time to explicitly define what that space is. Tom says, "This is where we drink coffee and eat lunch."
Yeah.
And Sarah takes note of a coffee machine and a small fridge.
Setting the scene.
Yeah. And then we get to the actual lunch break.
Yeah.
Sarah sits down with Tom and another coworker, Anna, and they don't talk about spreadsheets or client meetings or company policy.
No, not at all.
They ask Sarah about her hobbies, and Sarah reveals that she likes to bake cookies and go to the cinema, and Anna has this great enthusiastic response. She smiles and says, "We love cookies. You will fit in perfectly here."
It's so wholesome.
It is. And the story wraps up by telling us that by the end of the day, Sarah is very happy, her coworkers are kind, and she feels like part of the team.
Now, notice what is entirely missing from that sequence.
Any actual work.
Exactly. Not a single work task is performed.
Which is fascinating for a lesson that's ostensibly about business English. I mean, if we look at Tom's tour of the break room and this whole conversation about baking cookies, well, it reads exactly like a social survival guide.
A survival guide. I like that.
Yeah, it makes me think of the tutorial level in a video game. Like, the game isn't teaching you how to defeat the final boss or manage complex resource economies yet. It's just teaching you how to walk around, how to open your inventory, and most importantly, where the safe zones are.
And the break room functions as the ultimate safe zone in this narrative. The script is actively prioritizing cultural integration over task execution.
Wait, are you saying that the lesson implies cultural integration is actually a prerequisite for doing the job?
Basically, yes. Look at the mechanics of entering a foreign workplace. You can be highly skilled at operating software or managing accounts, but if you cannot navigate the break room, your tenure at that company will be fraught with anxiety.
That is so true.
Thriving in a new job, and by extension, thriving in a new language, relies heavily on finding common ground. Sharing a love for baked goods with Anna is what cements Sarah's success for the day.
The cookies save the day.
They really do. Mark and Claire are demonstrating to the listener that mastering social interactions is the foundation upon which all other technical work is built.
So phrases like, "What are your hobbies?" and "I like to bake" become the literal keys to unlocking workplace belonging.
Precisely.
So we've established this safe room within the narrative, but safety in a story doesn't matter if the listener's brain physically cannot process the words being spoken.
Right. The delivery matters just as much as the content.
And the transition here from what is being taught to how it is being taught is just brilliant. How does the audio format actually get those words into the listener's long-term memory?
Well, this is where Mark and Clara deploy the pedagogy of pacing. They manipulate time to bypass the brain's natural defense mechanisms.
Yeah, the script has very specific instructional notes for this. First, they read the story at a, quote, natural, steady pace, like it sounds like a normal conversation. But then Clara says to the audience, "Now let's listen to the story again, very slowly." And the script explicitly calls for significant pauses and very clear pronunciation.
It's a very deliberate shift.
Yeah. They read the exact same story, but deliberately fragmented. Mark says, like, "Today is Sarah's first day at her new job. She's an office assistant."
Right.
And Clara continues, "She arrives at the office at 9 o'clock. Every single sentence is broken down into these distinct, isolated chunks.
And to understand why this is so remarkably effective, we have to look at the mechanics of auditory processing.
Okay, lay it on me.
When you hear a language you are fluent in, your brain automatically parses the stream of sound into individual words. You don't consciously tell your brain where one word ends and the next begins. Your auditory cortex handles that segmentation instantly.
But when you hear a foreign language, that segmentation just doesn't happen. It just sounds like one long, continuous block of noise.
Exactly. Imagine looking at a page of text, but someone has deleted every single space, comma, and period.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
It is just a massive wall of letters. That is what a foreign language sounds like to the ear. You simply cannot locate the boundaries of the words.
Wow.
So the first natural read that Mark and Clara perform serves to give the listener the melody and the rhythm of the language. It provides the emotional intonation.
But you can't learn vocabulary from a wall of unspaced text,
No, you cannot.
which is where the slow pacing comes in. I've always wondered about this, though. We've all seen situations where someone speaks louder and slower to a non-native speaker, and it often feels incredibly patronizing.
Oh, definitely.
Like they're treating an adult as if they lack intelligence. So how does this script use slow pacing differently? Like, how does it function as an actual tool for empowerment?
It acts as an external processor for the learner's brain. By inserting those significant pauses, today is Sarah's first day, the hosts are artificially providing the spaces between the words that the learner's brain cannot yet generate on its own.
Oh, I see.
They are temporarily doing the heavy lifting of auditory segmentation.
So they are essentially adding the spaces back into that wall of text.
Exactly. Furthermore, it manages what linguists and psychologists refer to as the affective filter.
The affective filter.
Yeah, it's the emotional barrier that prevents learning. When a native speaker talks at normal speed, a learner might recognize the first word. But while their brain is translating that first word, the speaker has already said 10 more words.
Right, you just get left behind in the dust.
And the learner realizes they're falling behind. And the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for threat detection, interprets this failure as a high-stress event.
And when the amygdala spikes, it literally hijacks the cognitive resources needed for language processing. You just freeze up.
The stress blocks the language acquisition centers of the brain entirely. But the pauses in Mark and Clara's read bypass this amygdala hijack.
That's incredible.
They give the learner's brain the exact milliseconds it needs to translate, comprehend, and store the information without the existential dread of falling behind. It transforms a stream of overwhelming noise into recognizable, bite-sized components, preventing that affective filter from rising.
That makes the pacing an act of profound empathy, really.
It really is.
It's not about dumbing the language down at all. It's about providing the brain the physical breathing room it needs to function optimally.
Exactly.
Now, once the learner's ear is tuned like, they've heard the melody, and they've been given the segmented pieces without panicking, the script moves into explicit definition.
This is the crucial next step.
Right. Mark and Clara isolate 5 specific words from the story at the end of their lesson. They literally call them the 5 important words.
And this core 5 vocabulary strategy reveals the true mission of the lesson.
So we get coworker, defined as a person that you work with in the same company. We get introduce, defined as to tell someone your name when you meet for the first time.
Right.
Then we move to break room, a room in an office where employees can relax, eat, or drink coffee. And they finish with friendly, meaning being kind and pleasant to other people, and welcome, a greeting used to make someone feel happy to arrive at a new place.
Notice the thematic unity of those 5 selections. I mean, they had an entire story of words to choose from.
They really did. They could have chosen words like assistant, manager, desk, or office. Words that are strictly operational.
Task-oriented words.
Yeah. But instead, they isolate coworker and introduce the initial bridge between 2 strangers. They highlight break room, the physical sanctuary of the office, and they finish with the emotional outcomes. Friendly and welcome.
It's all connected.
This entire list is rooted in emotional safety. Is this curated list acting as a psychological safety net for the learner?
Absolutely it is. These 5 words form the fundamental building blocks of workplace belonging. Mark and Clara are deliberately teaching the vocabulary of empathy and inclusion.
Because think about what it takes for a new immigrant or an expat or just anyone entering a totally foreign corporate environment to actually feel secure.
It takes a lot more than just knowing where things are.
Right. If you only know how to say, "Where is the printer?" You can execute a task, sure, but you remain isolated. But if you know how to say welcome and friendly, you are equipped to build a micro-community for yourself.
And we look at Sarah's journey in the narrative. She starts off nervous, relying on her favorite blue dress for confidence. But by the end of the day, she feels like part of the team.
Yeah, a total transformation.
She achieved that outcome through coworkers who introduced themselves, who guided her to the break room, and who welcomed her warmly. By giving the learner these specific 5 words, the hosts are giving them the exact linguistic toolkit needed to replicate Sarah's success in reality.
And after they define these words and provide examples for each, Mark suggests listening to the story one more time at normal speed, specifically focusing on hearing those 5 core words in context.
It acts as the final integration step.
Yeah.
The learner has heard the story, experienced the slow auditory breakdown, processed the explicit definitions, and now their brain is primed to recognize those specific patterns at a natural speed.
They get to ride the roller coaster one more time, but now they know exactly where all the dips, drops, and turns are located.
No more surprises.
Exactly. They can just experience the momentum and listen for those newly established anchors of safety. So, as we bring this deep dive to a close, let's just look at the totality of what we've uncovered here.
It's pretty remarkable.
We took a deceptively simple ESL script and found an incredibly complex architecture beneath it. By breaking down a micro-narrative, utilizing strategic repetition to bypass the brain's threat detection systems, and focusing entirely on the vocabulary of human connection, Mark and Clara are doing so much more than teaching English.
They are teaching a masterclass in social survival and emotional intelligence.
They really are. They are teaching the listener how to confidently navigate a space where they previously held no power.
And the most fascinating part of this entire structure, though, happens after the formal lesson concludes.
Oh, right, the comments.
Yes. The source text ends with direct listener engagement. Mark turns to the audience and asks, "Do you remember your first day at a job? Were your coworkers friendly?" He asked them to use the new vocabulary to tell their own stories in the comments below. And Clara reminds everyone to subscribe to the Minds in Motions podcast.
Taking the lesson out of the theoretical narrative and demanding practical, immediate application.
Exactly.
Which actually brings me to a final provocative thought for you to mull over. You know, historically, adult language learning happened in highly isolated environments.
Oh, absolutely.
You sat in a classroom with dusty textbooks, you practiced your vocabulary with the person sitting at the desk next to you, and the scope of your practice basically ended at the classroom door.
It was very closed off.
But look at what this script represents. It uses a digital comment section to ask listeners to share their own first day stories.
The classroom is literally no longer bound by geography.
Right. So what does it mean for the future of adult education now that the classroom is a global, interactive, digital community?
That's a huge shift.
You have strangers from all over the world, originating from completely different cultures, who are practicing their new vocabulary together in a podcast comment section. They are communicating across massive cultural divides, bonding over their shared vulnerability, their own first day jitters, and, their own versions of a favorite blue dress.
It fundamentally transforms an isolated, often frustrating learning process into a collective human experience.
If this lesson is a perfectly engineered roller coaster, that comment section isn't just an afterthought, it is the photo booth at the end of the ride.
Love that.
It's that space where everyone, still vibrating from the experience, turns to the stranger next to them, looks at the picture, and bonds over the profound relief of shared human struggle. They didn't just survive the ride, they survived it together.
What a profound way to look at it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.